my name is Kristen. I'm president of Head, Shoulders, Teeth, and Tongue, a myofunctional therapy practice. And today I've got Rachel Petersen on with me, and she is president of Nourish the Good, which is all about nutrition and feeding the body correctly so that your body is functioning super well.
I'm super excited to join today, and it's always fun to just get an excuse to chat and about things that we are passionate about. So yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah. Well, tell us, okay, so tell me just a little bit, or tell us all a little bit about how you got into nutrition. Has this been something that you've loved your entire life, or why, what sparked your interest?
Yeah, so I feel like my story is a little bit unique in the fact, well, so like growing up, I was very much like a perfectionist, and I was an athlete, and I used to compete in wakeboarding, and so I was working out super hard and just training my body, and I always like to eat healthy and like to feel good and whatever, but I didn't really know much about actual nutrition. It was more just like me being very intense and hard on myself. And then fast forward a couple years, when I was in dental hygiene school, I shattered my ankle
Mm.
wakeboarding, and I'd had tons of I've like torn both ACLs, I've broken my femur, shattered my ankle, like gotten knocked out many times, like just tons of injuries. Like I had surgery every year for like 7 years. But this injury in hygiene school was like kind of my breaking point. And I was under tons of stress. That was like when I was taking 4 board exams. And when that happened, I was already like I said, I was pretty strict and hard on myself, like in high school and stuff. And then when I went to college, I lost like my freshman 15. So I lost 10 or 15 pounds. I also lost my period, which doctors told me was just fine. And I was like, sweet. So I won't worry about it. And then I had these injuries on top of it, which now I know is because I wasn't ovulating, which ovulation affects your bone, helps to build your bone health. So that's why I was having all these fractures. But, anyways, but this injury that I had in hygiene school, I mean, it was horrible. And I lost a lot of muscle mass because of my surgery, right? So like my leg like kind of shriveled up, but also I started getting a lot of gut issues. Like I was under so much stress that I couldn't digest my food. I had a lot of acid reflux. I was like burping all the time. And like I ate healthy, but I just felt like stress was just eating away at me. And I got down to like 99 pounds, which right now I'm like a healthy 135.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like realized, like I looked in the mirror one day, and my yoga pants that were normally super tight were like baggy on me. And I just like broke down crying and was like, knew that I was not healthy. Like I wasn't like anorexic, like I thought I was fat or starving myself. It was just I was just putting so much pressure on myself, and I was not healthy.
Yeah.
Um and a lot of people were telling me like, okay, like you need to go get a Big Mac, and you need to, drink a milkshake and just
Mm.
like eat tons of crap. And
Happy food.
I just didn't feel like that was the answer. Um and I just felt like I wanted to be healthy in a healthy way, like not like shaming my body or like wanting to be perfect, but like I wanted to love my body and take care of my body, but not like in a harsh way. So I guess like being healthy in a healthy way. So I learned a lot about how to fuel my body, and really the connection between your gut and your brain health and your stress, right? The stress and gut connection. Like I
Yeah,
realized
that's
a
huge.
lot of my stress and well, a lot of my gut issues that I had going on was because of stress. So I
Mhm.
learned how to like meditate and do yoga, and that was like more powerful to me than really honestly food at that point. That like kind of calmed things down, and I was able to eat more, and like just loving my body at a healthier weight, was a big thing. Like being okay with having little chubby, like a little bit of chub in my cheek, which is like totally fine. So I just felt like I became more accepting of my body, and I like kind of was in a decade where I was very hard on my body for 10 years, and now I'm in this decade where I'm just like replenishing, loving, nourishing my body. And so I got back up to my healthy weight and just I started learning about the importance of diversity. I used to be very restrictive with what I ate, but there's so much value in diversity, just for our gut and everything. And I really, a lot of my health journey started by I just started listening to books. When I was done with hygiene school, I was like, oh, now I can learn about whatever I want to learn about. And I just started like listening to books like crazy and just getting super excited about all this stuff. And I decided to start my own business, Nourish the Good, because I wanted to help people be healthy in a healthy way. Like you don't have to be binging on junk food or being anorexic. Like you can find a healthy, balanced way to feel good. And then as I got more into that, as you know, one thing leads to another. And I started getting more into like hormone balancing and fertility and nutrition. And it just was this whole rabbit hole. But it's been cool that I've been able to help people along the way. And I've learned a ton along the way.
That's awesome. I remember you've taught me like the more variety you have, the more variety of microbiome you're going to have in your gut, and which I thought was so interesting. And I do appreciate your perspective on this, the 80-20 rule, because you're working with people who are trying to change their nutrition. A lot of them are feeling like they have to give up, the things that
Right.
they love, the foods
Yeah.
that are not so good for them. And so, you're like, "Hey, you can have a little bit of that, but you want to learn to love all of the foods that are so
Yes.
good for you so that you're
And
great."
like a lot of intuitive eating, I'll say intuitive eating, but intuitive eating isn't just indulging in your addictions, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a huge difference. Like intuitive eating is like eating foods that make you feel good in the long term. And so
Mhm.
like being slow and mindful and noticing like, oh, I feel really good after I eat this, or like, I wanted that ice cream, but now I feel like junk, like
Yes.
it's not intuitive to just like eat ice. Like we wouldn't just eat ice cream all day every day because I would feel like garbage. But
Yeah.
a little bit of ice cream occasionally is great.
Yeah.
But like teaching people how to learn how to truly be intuitive and not just because there's a difference between being intuitive and addicted to sugar.
Yes.
So sometimes it's
Yes,
it's
which
helpful.
I'm so glad you brought that up because in college, that was me, right? Like
Yeah.
I would binge on sugar in order to stay awake to study for exams. And
Yeah.
then I would just crash so
Yeah.
hard. And
Yeah.
my body learned this is how we function, right? We
Right.
go hard, hard, hard on the sugar and then we crash and we get sick, over
Yeah.
Christmas break
Right.
or over,
Yeah.
summer break or spring break.
Yeah.
And so having to learn to really feel how I
Mhm.
feel when I'm eating foods that are actually going to
Yeah.
support me and learning to love that feeling.
Right.
Yes,
Like
and then
learning to
recognize
love that. Totally.
yes.
Well,
Yeah.
and as you like it, for a lot of clients, like depending on where they're coming from, like some people I see who are like way too hard on themselves and are being way too strict, and we're like, okay, let's chill things out. But then there's also people who like need to eat a lot healthier. Um, but let's see, where is I going with that? Oh, like so when somebody's trying to eat healthier, like it's helpful to do a cleanse and to do a detox and to like do a clean sweep and get rid of, the bad bacteria in the gut and all these things. And then you can start because once you start eating healthier for a little bit, your taste buds will change and
Yeah.
you'll learn to love real good food,
Which is so
So that
cool.
can be a hard yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
It's a hard transition at first, right? When I decided
Yeah,
to become healthier myself, and I was just like, this is my goal now. I can
yeah.
see what it's done to me and I don't like it. And it seemed so hard. And I thought, am I gonna have to like feel these cravings for junk
Yes.
food
Yeah.
forever? And
Yeah.
and it took a couple
You
of
don't.
weeks for me, but then the cravings go away, right? And I'm
Yeah,
like,
and like you
well,
don't
this
even
is
want that. Like to be like, oh, I'm so sorry you can't have this. I'm like, it's really fine.
yeah, like
I'm
I don't want
not
it.
sad at all. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'd like to dive in just a little bit deeper and get into some of your experiences, if you're willing to share. When we were working together, you were telling me a little bit about how your periods were off and like you weren't having them for several months, and you were interested in getting pregnant, and so this is an issue, right? Plus, it affects everything else. We really don't understand in our society
Yeah.
how a
Yes.
woman's body works and how our hormones affect
Yes.
literally everything else. And so it's
Yes.
a problem, not just if you want to get pregnant, if your hormones are off, right? It
Yeah.
affects everything. Like you were
Yeah.
saying, if it's your bone
Yeah.
density, like this is a big
Yes.
deal. And so,
Yeah.
but you've been able to figure out that not just that it is a problem, but what to do about it. And so I was hoping you could give us some details about that, like what you experienced, what you tried, what worked, what
Yeah.
didn't, all that fun
Yeah.
stuff.
I love this topic. So yeah, my periods, like I said, were very irregular just because I was an athlete in high school. And then when I went to college, I was underweight. And so they just went bye bye. And I was like, sweet, don't have to worry about bleeding every month, So I was like, I guess if my OB says it's fine, I'm just going to enjoy it. Right. And then
Which
I
is
got put
mind
on
blowing to
birth
me,
control.
right? I'm
I
just
know, which now I'm
"Woo,
like,
totally gone,
let's
and that's okay."
slap you. Like, do you know how much that affected me? But whatever, that's fine. Um, so and then whenever I got married, we got put on birth control. and I just got an IUD. And I honestly didn't have any issues with birth control, but like my gut just kept telling me like I just need to get it out and let my body figure out how to have a cycle again.
Mhm.
And I go to the doctor and they're like, no, like it's actually better for you to keep it in. It protects you from endometriosis, or like I don't know. They're like, you don't like the second you get it out, you'll get pregnant right away, type of thing. Bunch of baloney. Anyways, I ended up just trusting my gut and just got it out, and I'm so glad that I did, because it did take a while for me to regulate things, and I discovered that my periods were like very affected by stress. Like if I was really stressed, my cycles would be a lot longer, right?
Mhm.
And so there's many things. I mean, nutrition is really, really big. I mean, for me, like first of all, eating enough food, right? Like if you
Yes.
get under a certain weight, like your body is not, it perceives that you're in a famine and it's not healthy enough to reproduce. Like it's not even
Yeah.
thinking
They can't
about
take on creating another human, right? That
right, if it's not
would be
even able
safe.
to take care of itself, right?
Yeah.
And even not if you're trying to get pregnant, like fertility is a sign of optimal health, right?
Yes. Mhm.
And so if you're not fertile or you're not having your cycles, like there's a reason why.
Mhm.
So eating enough food and eating healthy foods, and not just, because a lot of people are just eating processed junk all the time. And really, it's not complicated. Like just eat real food. Like, eat a wide variety of whole foods and plant foods, and like grass-fed beef and
Mhm.
grass-fed butter, like
I was so
real food.
excited when I learned the butter was a health food.
And I was like, woo! My husband was so excited about that. Um, but really, people make nutrition so complicated, but it is so simple. Like eat like, foods from nature and God are going to help your health and your hormones in a variety of ways,
Yes.
and processed foods are going to harm your health in a variety of ways, and sugar and all those things. And so just try to eat real natural food and wide varieties of things, and like you're going to be fine. um
And I love that
yeah,
you said, healthy fats, because a lot of, my mom was taught,
yeah,
don't eat fat. Fat makes you
right,
fat. And I,
like,
from what
no,
I'm seeing, that's not correct, right? It's
no,
you've got
yeah,
to get in those healthy fats, because we
yeah,
have fat soluble vitamins that, you've got
yeah,
our A's and E's,
yeah,
D3s, K2s.
yeah,
You can't
yeah,
keep those in your body if you don't have
yeah.
any fat,
Well,
right?
and also like a lot of people are like, because I eat a very plant-rich diet, but I also love good quality animal products for sure.
Yes.
But a lot of people are like, oh, you like the iron or the calcium or whatever, these minerals in plant foods are not as bioavailable as they
Bioavailable.
are. But it's about how you absorb it. So if you add healthy fats and you add an acid or like a vitamin C rich food, it helps to bring those nutrients out. So actually, if you have a healthy dressing on your salad, it's you're going to absorb way more nutrients than if you have that salad plain.
And you
And
have,
so
like, what's a healthy salad dressing then?
so I mean, I feel like I can make a salad faster than most people can pour a bowl of cereal. Like so like you just have like a bed of greens, whether it be kale or spinach or like whatever. But like literally I just drizzle a little bit of like organic extra virgin olive oil and then some balsamic vinegar, and then I just do like salt, pepper,
Mhm.
oregano, or like whatever
Oh, it
seasonings
sounds
you
so
want.
good.
And that's it. That's it.
That's
And you can
awesome.
also, if you don't want to do olive oil, you can do avocado. You just want to make sure you have a fat and an acid. So it could
Okay.
be like avocado and lemon juice, or avocado and whatever vinegar you want, and you can do like hemp seeds, or yeah. So you want like every time you have vegetables, you want to have a fat and an acid with it, because it's going to help you to absorb so much more, and it also tastes really good. Like a lot of people think that eating healthy tastes gross, but it is so delicious. Like you can make food so good.
Could you give me just maybe like two or three other examples of
Mhm.
that?
Yeah,
So that people can just have it off the top of their head and be like, oh,
yeah,
that's super
yeah.
easy. I can totally do
Well,
that.
and the cool thing is like when you get into intuitive eating, like our body naturally likes those combinations. So like
Hmm.
for example, like apples are
Mm.
naturally, I mean, they're a fruit, but they also have high amounts of vitamin C and natural acid in there. And we
Hmm.
love eating apples with almond butter or with peanut butter. So like apples
Okay,
and
I
almond butter.
totally love that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But like so like our bodies like those combinations, or like carrots and ranch, or like if you are, if you're roasting vegetables, like vegetables and broccoli and olive oil, and you can add a little bit of balsamic vinegar on there if you want. But yeah, so like our body really likes a combination of fiber plus fats.
Mm.
So yeah, I would say that. And but specifically for greens and salads, adding a vinegar is going to help you to absorb more iron and minerals from those greens.
Mm.
So yeah, I'd say apples and peanut butter, like celery
You
and
can
peanut
even
butter. One of
mention,
my
yeah,
favorite
like even hummus. And
hummus.
you added,
Yes. Yes.
hummus and vegetables. Does hummus naturally have some,
Yeah.
well, I guess the
Yeah.
vegetables have some acidity. Does the hummus have
Well, the
acidity?
hummus does
Or,
because usually it has lemon juice. So I'll have lemon juice and also
oh,
have fats from
okay.
the tahini.
Mm,
So like tahini is like a sesame seed paste. And
okay.
so there's usually going to be some oils or tahini in there
Yes.
and lemon juice. And so your body really, once you like figure that out, and if you're like making something
Yeah.
and it just doesn't taste quite right, sometimes it just needs a little bit of lemon juice or a little bit of apple cider vinegar or something. And
Hmm.
it's like, oh, that's what it needed, you know?
Wow.
Um, so that's kind of fun to just like experiment with that. But yeah, just add fats and acid, and you'll notice that your body really likes those combinations. So
That's really
yeah.
cool. You were telling me a little bit about how you were trying to get your cycles more regular, and
Hmm.
if I remember correctly, you were eating certain foods at certain times of the
Yes.
month.
Yes.
Could
Yes.
you go into a little more detail about
Yes.
that and kind of
Yes.
explain a day in the life or a month in the life of Rachel as you're trying to make
Yes.
this
Yes.
happen?
So a lot of that is like cycle syncing. So eating like there's specific herbs and foods and things and even thoughts and emotions that support different hormones at the different phases. In this chart, there's like a line that goes up and that's estrogen, and then there's a line that goes up and there's progesterone. But
Mhm.
there are, so I'm going to start with seeds because seeds are actually really, really important. So there's certain seeds that support the rise in estrogen. So
Yeah.
flax seeds and pumpkin seeds support a healthy rise in estrogen, which helps with peak ovulation, all these things. And then after estrogen peaks, then progesterone comes in, and progesterone, sesame seeds and sunflower seeds actually help to detox estrogen and support progesterone. And
Oh,
so instead of doing like hormone replacement therapy or like hormone, like topical rubs or whatever, like you can literally do the same thing with seeds. And so, like, if you had to choose one thing in your nutrition to do, it would be seed cycling. So just doing like flax seeds and pumpkin seeds at the like when your period starts up until when you ovulate, and then after you ovulate before your period, then you're going to be doing progesterone. So,
mhm.
like, so that would be sesame seeds and sunflower seeds. And then when you're pregnant, you're basically in one huge luteal phase, which is like, so sesame seeds and sunflower seeds to just help with progesterone. So I started just getting more into that, kind of regulating my stress, but then also like for me, grounding was actually huge for my cycles.
Mm.
So like women, we have these monthly cycles, but we're actually very connected to nature. So the moon, so we have a 29-day cycle. This blew my mind when I learned it, but the moon also has a 29-day cycle.
Oh,
And women traditionally throughout history used to ovulate on the full moon, which is when nature is the most fertile, and they'd have their period on the new moon. But now that we're so out of touch with light and technology and what the heck is even going on with the moon, like, and the moon also controls like the tidal waves and water, which our bodies and our blood is
mhm,
water, right?
mhm.
And so that was super interesting to me. But as I started just connecting my feet to the earth and just being in nature more, I noticed that my cycles started to line up with the moon a lot more. I was like, oh, this is really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. So just kind of like a fun thing. And sometimes people too are opposite. So some people will like ovulate on the new moon and have their period on the full moon. And traditionally, wisdom says, which I don't know, there's like science behind this, but those women are like healers because they take care of women when they're on their period. So they just kind of, do that. So
That's
anyways,
kind of
however,
cool
but
to
it's kind
think
of, it's
about.
just like a fun, like, and if your period's regular, like you don't need to stress about the moon, but you can start noticing, and that's interesting. But I
Mhm.
did find that connecting with the earth was important. And I was in my lactation course, and being skin to skin with your baby is so important because it helps your baby to regulate their heart rate and their breathing,
Mhm.
and is so important for the health of the baby. But
Yes.
I was like laying in the grass one day and I was like, I'm skin to skin with Mother Earth right now. I was like, oh,
I
like
love
thank
that thought. I
but
love it.
that, like, I don't know, just like a dorky thought. But like, I really do feel like being connected to the earth like helps me to regulate more.
Yeah.
So like
Well, there's
decreasing stress.
studies that show that if we're out in
Yes,
nature, all the vitals improve, like our heartbeat,
yes,
our,
yes,
blood pressure, oxygenation,
yes.
like all of
And
that
our
improves.
and it improves your mood, which decreases stress, which improves
Yeah,
your gut and your immune system and your hormones, right? It just makes
yeah,
you happier and healthier. So
absolutely.
yeah, get out in nature, eat enough food, um And yeah, so that was interesting. One thing that I actually started getting like way into for my hormones, because they I was getting pretty far, but there was also some things that were just off.
Mhm.
That I started learning a lot about this after we moved, so we haven't geeked out about this yet. But I don't know if you know much about like fasting, like
Little.
specifically for women's health. Okay, so basically, like when you fast, your body goes into autophagy, and it allows your body time rather than just digesting food all the time to like clean sweep and clean out your gut and repair your gut lining, and it just like gives your body a break to do all of the deep cleaning work that it needs to do. But for women, we're
Mhm.
often told like don't fast. Like you don't want to fast too much as a woman because it can mess up your cycles. There's Dr. Mindy Pels is a well, she's a doctor, but she wrote this book. It's called Fast Like a Girl. But how to time your fasting around your menstrual cycle.
Mm.
And that was like mind blowing to me because I just felt like I needed a reset and I needed to cleanse and I needed to like, it's like a reset button for your hormones. But she talks about in her book, like the best time to do a fast is during your period because your body, first of all, you're not pregnant. So estrogen is high the first half of your cycle, and then the second half of your cycle, progesterone's high. Progesterone hates fasting. Like if you try to fast during the second half of your cycle, it's going to increase or decrease your metabolism, make you hang on to weight. It's going to help you make your body not feel safe, and it's going to mess up your fertility. So like, do not fast before, after ovulation, before your period, and around ovulation. Like you just don't want to
Okay.
do that. But when you get your period, all your hormones go down and
Mhm.
your body is shedding, right? Your body's naturally shedding the inner lining of your uterus. And so it's
Yeah.
a really good time for your body to detox and to fast. And when you're on your period, you're literally not pregnant.
Yes.
So it's a wonderful time for women to fast.
Okay.
Um
Awesome.
and yeah, and like also is that you're also shedding at that time is a really good time to like shed like anything you need to let go of, and like any like not good thoughts. And also, so I started doing a 36-hour fast every month when I got my period, and like it totally regulated my blood sugar, got my period so much more regular.
Oh.
And that was like life changing. And your gut too, if we can like get into a little bit of gut health on this. So
Yes,
like if you think
please.
about your gut lining, like a lot of people have a leaky gut, right? Whether it be from inflammation or the foods that we're eating or whatever. Like our
Yeah.
guts need help.
Tons of my patients
um
struggle with this. Yeah.
the leaky gut is a huge issue, and when your gut is leaky, like you're just going to be bloated a lot, and you're going to have like food allergies and everything, like everything from gluten to sugar, like everything's just going to irritate you, right? And
Yeah.
so for a lot of clients who are getting a lot more food allergies, it's usually a leaky gut issue. But if you think about like if you were to cut your arm on barbed wire 4 to 6 times a day, every single day, it would never ever heal, no matter how many supplements you took or
Wow.
how healthy you ate. Like if you
Yeah.
were doing that every day, like it would never ever heal.
Mhm.
But the amazing thing about the body is it heals itself. So if you just gave it a break for a day
Mm.
or two, it would heal all by itself. And so it's kind of the same thing with our guts. Like our guts just never ever get a break. And so if you just give it a break for a minute, it allows that gut leaning to heal.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like closing down the highway to repair potholes every
Yeah.
once in a while is a good thing.
Mm.
And then you can introduce things like bone broth and things with glycine because it acts as like glue for your
Mm.
gut lining. So like if you do a 24 like plus hour fast and then you break your fast with bone broth, like it heals a leaky gut like amazingly. Um
Oh.
so that is like really cool for gut health, but also like for your hormones and doing it around the right time. And whenever I fast too, because you don't want to do it in like a restrictive, like I'm starving myself way.
Mhm.
But like I always try to find ways to like instead of eating food, I'm like feeding my spirit, right? And I'm
Mm.
meditating and I'm being out in nature. And also I found I loved fasting actually when I was busy because I didn't have to worry about like
Yeah.
eating a lunch or like cleaning up dinner. Is like you just have so much more time,
Mhm.
and you definitely want to do it correctly. Like you want to be able to be taking your electrolytes, and certain supplements and herbs can like make you not as like hangry and like I'm gonna faint, because like I used to, like I couldn't go more than like 4 hours without food without like being super hangry, right? And like
Yeah.
the thought of doing a longer fast was like no way am I going to be able to do that. But as I got more into fasting, like my body became more and more adaptable. And it's really good to vary your fasting windows. As a woman, you just need to be really careful about when in the month you do that. I actually did do a 72-hour fast once, and that was like, I wouldn't recommend doing that more than once a year, but that totally reboots your immune system and like creates new stem cells. And I mean, that was a crazy experience, and I'm glad I did it when I did, like, because anyways, so I did that fast, and then I fasted for 36 hours every month for, I mean, almost a year, probably like 9 months. And then when we moved to Oklahoma and got into our house, like I had a feeling that I needed to be done fasting. I was like, okay, so I'm done fasting now. And then we got pregnant like the next month. Like, well, and we started trying like, so I've been worried about my ability to get pregnant just because of my history with, being at really low weight and things like that. And I don't know. I just have always had this fear. You just never know how long it's going to take until you start trying. And I really am so glad that I took that time to regulate my cycle. And like fasting and detoxing, doing all those things is great to do before you're pregnant, because when you're pregnant, you can't fast or detox
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I
Yeah.
did
You
that when
don't
I
want to
did.
be fasting while you're
Yeah.
pregnant. Absolutely.
No. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. That's super
Yeah.
exciting. And congratulations on your pregnancy.
Thank you.
Yay. So
Yeah.
excited for you. And that's so cool that you've recognized all of this, knowing that eventually you wanted to have children with your husband. And so you're like, hey, I've got to get my body ready to
Right.
create this successful experience. Um,
Right.
and I think that's so cool that you put
Yeah.
in the work and it has gotten you results here.
Yeah, well, and to just really quick, I went to my OBGYN, the one who told me that it was no problem to not have a period or just keep my IUD in or whatever. And I
Yeah.
was like, what can I be doing, to help my fertility? Like, we don't want to get pregnant for a few years, but like I, want to prepare my body. And she basically told me like there's nothing you can do, just like, yeah, they like literally told me there's nothing I can do, which is so not true. And I am so glad that I just took matters into my own hands and just really just got my body healthy and my hormones regulated. And there's a lot of research on trimester 0. That's like the 3 to 12 months before you have a baby,
Mhm.
because that really is what your baby becomes made out of, like
Yeah.
that is like huge. So taking the more time you can take before you get pregnant is great. And even if you're not getting pregnant, I mean, just being healthy and regulating your hormones is just going to help your health in general. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Oh man, I love that. Yeah, I've got a few friends who
mhm,
struggled. They wanted to get pregnant and they struggled and struggled with miscarriages and
yeah,
they had several each.
yeah,
And it wasn't until they started learning about nutrition and
yeah,
like eating a variety of things and trying to get them from good sources and all
right,
of that kind of thing and doing that for several months. And
hmm,
then they both
yeah,
successfully got pregnant and their
yes,
babies are beautiful. Like they've got
yes,
beautiful teeth. They
yeah,
have spaces
yep,
between all their
yep,
baby teeth,
yep,
which means that their
yep,
jaws have enough room, which
yes,
I
I
look
know.
at their kids and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's
They're so
amazing. Like,
cute.
and they,
I
they
know.
put in the work, and but their body wasn't
Yeah,
ready beforehand, right?
yeah,
Because their body
right.
wasn't being taken care of. And so each of them, they've, learned all of that and they've been so good about, feeding their
Mhm.
kids, the way that they've been feeding themselves. And so their kids are growing up and they're just doing amazing.
That's
And
so
I'm super excited. And
yeah.
it makes sense that
It makes
there are things that our
yeah,
bodies really do need. And if we
yeah.
know what those are, then we can help our bodies out.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Well, your body wants to be healthy, you know?
yes.
You just gotta not get in the way. And I think if I would have started trying to get pregnant back when I was, 99 pounds and super stressed, I would have struggled with infertility. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. So I'm glad that I just took the time to get healthy and things like that. And also, like, it's all about God's timing too. Um, but yeah,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
But there are things that
totally.
we can do, right? Because we're in
Yes.
mortal bodies, human bodies that need
Yes.
good sleep, good nutrition, good
Yes.
exercise, like
Like there are
connection with the
natural
earth,
laws
like,
that need to
yes,
be obeyed for sure.
absolutely.
Um,
Right. So,
and also like I talk a lot with my clients too about like, nutrition, I mean, and eating real food, I mean, so important. And but there's also like things like, fasting, getting out in nature, and honestly, oxygen, like how you breathe, is
So
like an
important.
important nutrient. Like, I mean, so, so, so important. And I mean, with you doing like myofunctional therapy, like I like used to be, well, I don't know. I hope that we're gonna have, just a cute, gorgeous little baby girl and that she will be so cute. I hope. But I
She
used to
will
be
be.
like worried about that. But I'm like, she's not gonna be a mouth breather, and so she's probably gonna be pretty cute. So, but but it's crazy because like at 13 weeks, which was last week, I'm 14 weeks right now, like babies actually start to suck in the womb. And so
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, okay, all right, like start sucking really good and really hard because that, develops everything and will help with
Yes.
breastfeeding
All
and
the
things like that
muscles.
later on.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm
Mhm.
like, yes, get working down there on
Get
that
going,
because
little baby.
that's
Yeah.
where it starts. And a lot of like, I mean, as far as like myofunctional
Mhm.
development, well, and the development of your face and jaws and everything, obviously mouth breathing and sucking and using your tongue properly are huge. But also, like the first bone affected by malnutrition is your maxilla, so your upper jaw.
'Cause I just recently read a study that
Mhm.
talked about how women who are suffering from snoring or any other kind of breathing disorder while they're sleeping, whether that's mild,
Yeah.
moderate, severe sleep apnea or just airway resistance, which is a really big fancy term for someone who's not breathing
Mhm.
that well, but they're not like having a full on,
Yeah.
stoppage of breathing. Um, baby also suffers from poor
Yeah.
breathing
Yeah. Yeah.
anytime mom's doing that. And so if she's consistently breathing
Right.
poorly at night while she's
Right.
sleeping, then baby's breathing poorly. And when baby's born,
Yes.
mouth is
Yeah.
smaller than
Yes.
what it ought to be when
Yes.
baby's born. And so it makes total sense. You were saying the maxilla is the first bone that's affected by poor nutrition
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
poor oxygenation. And yet it
Yeah.
correlates with this study perfectly.
So having a good healthy diet, breathing correctly, like there's so many things that go into health. And so I love taking a more holistic approach, because I can only get so far with people with nutrition, but if they need help,
Yeah. Mhm.
either with like therapy or myofunctional therapy or whatever, like I always love having a network of people because
Yeah.
it takes a village. Like
It
it,
does.
it really
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really does. And I love that you brought that up about being as healthy as you can and prep for the baby and now while you're pregnant. And so trying to reach out to women who are, they're pregnant and they're wanting to take care of their babies. So they're so excited about being pregnant and having this child in their house and as a part of their family. But we don't know in our society what we can do and the
Yeah.
basic things, the super basic things to make sure that mom is breathing very well day and
Mhm.
night through the nose, filtering all that air, using the oxygen efficiently, and
Yeah.
making sure the baby's getting all the benefits of that as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Which I mean, is comforting. It's comforting to know that there's like a lot that I can do and that we can do, but then it's
yes,
also scary because then you're like, oh, a lot depends on what I do,
yeah.
or don't
And at
do.
the same time, we're
But
not trying to
yeah,
scare people, right? Like this
totally.
is an effort
Amen.
to get the word out there and be like,
Information.
we do
Yes.
have control, but we
Yes.
just have to learn what it is we have control over and what our
Yes.
habits are doing for and against us,
Well,
right?
and knowledge is power. Well, and like when you know
Yes.
better, like you can do better. And
I'm of the belief that God really does want to help us as soon as we
yes.
change the mindset to, I do want to be healthy and I want to take care of this body, then we're going to be given the inspiration that we need in order to find those things that
And
help us.
usually too, like like my clients I work with, like usually people know the most important thing that they need to be doing. And so
Yeah.
like as a coach, like I just ask them, what's the most important thing you feel like you need to do to improve your health? And they know, so
Yeah.
just helping them
We do. Our
do what
bodies
they know.
know.
Your body
Yeah.
knows what
Absolutely.
rather than getting, oh, there's all these bajillion things, like, okay, what do you feel like is the number
Mhm.
one most important thing for you to start with right now?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, fun. And then I'd also say, like, I don't know if anybody is pregnant out there. I kind of told Kristen this a little bit before, but like I've been like super sick and nauseous. And normally like I eat so healthy. But like right now, like walnuts make me gag, apples make me gag. Like I mean like so many like healthy things, but also like processed food makes me so sick too. So like if I'm gonna feel gross, I might as well, eat something that's like not terrible. But I'm really grateful that I had a really good foundation and a little bit of a buffer before getting pregnant.
Yeah.
Because like there's a book called Real Food for Pregnancy by Lily Nichols.
Mm,
Like really like your first trimester like is just survival. Like even if you're not eating the greatest, like your body's gonna rely on your reserves before you got pregnant, and then obviously do the best that you can. So like sometimes the different phases in your menstrual cycle can seem super confusing and kind of over your head a little bit. But the way that I like to think of it is the four seasons of the year. So winter, spring, summer, and fall.
yeah.
So winter you can liken to your menstrual phase, right? So you're having your period, you just kind of want to hibernate, you don't want to be around people and just like eat warm, comforting foods, right?
Yeah.
And then when the period ends, you go into your follicular phase, which is like springtime. You're like, oh my gosh, I feel like a new person, rebirth, and ah, right? And then after that, you go into ovulation. And ovulation, like women have a lot more energy, like you feel hot and sexy. And that's like usually when, men are the most attracted to you and like things like that.
And vice
And then
versa.
after, yeah. And then after ovulation, then you kind of start to wind down again. You go into your luteal phase, which is kind of like fall. And that is like you want to be just kind of like nourishing and like just preparing for winter again. And the cycle goes over. So like so we as women go through these four seasons every single month, and when you can start to pay attention to that, like instead of like so many women feel like, oh my gosh, I'm such a failure because I don't feel like working out today. And it's like actually if you're in your luteal
Oh, yeah.
phase, yeah, if you're in your luteal phase or your menstrual phase, like it's actually not good to overexercise right now. Like it's not good to fast when progesterone's high, but you also don't want to overexercise. And so if you're just feeling like you want to just take it easy, like be intuitive and like that's okay. Like
Yes.
that is okay. And overexercising is a huge cause of hormone imbalance and infertility too. Like
Mhm.
so many people just feel like we as women need to be like men and men can work out every day, and I guess you can, but like I don't know. You don't want to like just have grace and compassion with your ebbs and flows.
Yes.
Um, and so just knowing what to do and what not to do. And there's also like herbs and nutrition you can do to support your hormones in each phase. And I have a whole PDF guide on fasting. And it also has like nutrition, herbs, supplements, like journal prompts, affirmations, and like
Mm.
exercise, what movement you should do in each phase. Cause I just wanted to, I've like done all this research and I
Yeah.
would get all this stuff, but it's like all scattered. So I put it all into one place.
Mhm.
And so I have like a list of things to do in each phase of your cycle.
And can
And I also
people
have like,
reach out to you
yes,
as a coach and maybe get some of this information?
yes. Well,
Okay.
and if you go to my Instagram at Nourish the Good, if you go to the link in my bio, my cycle syncing guide is there.
Perfect.
Um, but I'll send it to you also so that you
Yeah.
can
Yeah. I'll put it
like,
in the notes. Mhm.
yeah. Don't get overwhelmed by the huge, you don't have to do everything on the list in every phase every time. Like
Mhm.
pick what stands out to you. Like if this journal prompt stands out to you or this movement or this, like you don't have to do all the things all the time, but
Yeah.
those are just like suggestions of the things that can support you most in that time. So
I
yeah,
love
i
that.
i loved that because it really, I felt like it got me a lot more connected with like intuitively with my body and with my hormones and understanding my hormones. And also I don't know, with nature, like it brought everything together for me. So like I love cycle syncing and fertility are and hormone balance is kind of like my thing that I love right now. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of, I did that answer all of your
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah. That
Okay.
was perfect.
And I don't know if you know, but
Yeah.
like my cookbooks came out, and so I'm done
Yes.
with my
You had told me
cookbooks.
about that. Yes. Tell
Yes.
us about those.
So so yeah, I mean, it's really a compilation of just like all of my favorite recipes. And as I was on my health journey, like I just discovered like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Cause I used to just eat like literally like peas. Like I was so restricted. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm totally missing out on life. And I just started discovering like you can make healthy food that is so delicious, and broadening my horizons and diversity and stuff, and playing in the kitchen. And my husband is like a super picky eater, which was actually really convenient for taste testing and stuff because I knew that if he liked it, it was actually really good, right? So I've been working on this cookbook for like 3 years, but I just got it published on Amazon, and it really just, it's not really one particular diet, but it's like a very, all of the recipes are gluten free because my husband has celiac disease and I'm gluten intolerant. So A lot of them are gluten-free, except for there's like some sourdough bread sometimes. So if you have celiac disease, don't eat sourdough bread, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's just like very like plant rich. So it's
Mm.
not totally plant-based. It could easily be plant-based if you wanted it to. But just very plant rich, and then also like good quality animal products in moderation, like bone broth and grass-fed beef and wild caught fish. And I have a lot of like the whole first, like, I think it's like 60 pages, all just like health information,
Oh,
and like why I use what ingredients we use, and like learning how to listen to your body. And there's a lot of herbal recipes in there too. I don't know if you know, but I did a herbal course from the Herbal Academy, so I'm actually an herbalist now too.
no,
Um,
I did not know this.
yes,
Tell me
yep,
more.
yeah. So yeah, I've been getting like really into herbs and stuff too. So there's a lot of like herbal recipes in my cookbook. It's even just cooking herbs like basil and cilantro and oregano, like, are total nutritional powerhouses. So they, I mean, help to boost the immune system and can be used like as medicine, absolutely. um with herbs, you definitely want to be careful, because if you, it's just like medicine, right? Like there are side effects and contraindications, and not all herbs are safe in all doses for all people. And so
Mhm.
working with an herbalist and like definitely doing your research to know what you should do is very important. Probably like my two favorite herbs, one of them would be nettle. Nettle is amazing for allergies. I don't know if you knew that, but it's a
Mm.
natural antihistamine.
Uh-huh.
And it works better than nasal sprays for like 85% of people in like a double blind placebo study. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
it's amazing, but it also is like very mineral, and like it's very dense in iron and minerals. And so it's really good for like
Mm.
anemia or taking that after you have your period. So you'll notice in the cycle syncing guide, nettle is, I always recommend that on your period and after your period, because it'll help to replenish your iron stores. And nettle is really cool because like you can get it at like a health food store at Good Earth or whatever. Or during the summer in like the spring, you can go on the Stewart Falls hike and there's a whole entire field of nettle. You can just harvest a bunch of it, you know. Also, it's so fun when you can like get more into like wild edibles, because that is really like the healthiest, purest form, is like eating foods in nature. But a lot of people have fear about not identifying something correctly or getting the wrong thing, because obviously there are poisonous things out there. But there's an app called Picture This, and you can scan it. You have to pay for it. It's like thirty
Yeah.
dollars a year. But
Mhm.
you can scan like the weeds in your garden, or like the random thing that you see on the side of the road or when you're on a hike, and it'll tell you what it is. And I've taken it on plant walks. We've done it.
Yeah.
Chris and I, we
We've
did a
totally
plant
done
walk.
that. It was so
Yeah, yeah,
fun.
we've totally done that. And it's like totally accurate. So that is like a really fun way to identify things. And then I also, there's a book, it's called The 437 Wild Edible Plants of the Rocky Mountain West. And so the app is not going to tell you if it's edible or not, or because
Mhm.
it's, you know,
It doesn't want to
legality.
help be held responsible for.
Yeah. So it'll tell you what it is, but once you know what it is, then you can look it up in your books,
Yeah.
and figure out like if it's edible or medicinal. And it's just fun, like when you start to realize all of the magical, wonderful things that are around you. And
Mhm.
there's, I think it's cool because there's herbs in, like, in my opinion, God gives herbs in each different place to help the people in that specific area. So, for example, like aloe vera
Mhm.
helps people in the desert because it helps with sunburn and, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of herbs in like high pollution cities that help with pollution. And so it's just getting to know the stuff that's around you is really just kind of fun and opens a whole new can of worms. And
Yeah.
if you're wanting help with specific herbs, like it is helpful to work with an herbalist just to make sure you don't have any, you know, contraindications, and making sure you're doing things in safe doses.
Yeah.
One of my favorite herbs just for like hormone balance and fertility, or like cycle syncing in general, would be chase tree berry. Like it just helps to regulate. It helps to regulate your cycle. It helped me a ton. Helps to
Oh,
regulate your cycle, but it also helps with like any PMS or cramping, things like that. But it also helps if you have irregular cycles for it to come back. So it just brings your cycle into balance.
mm.
Um, so that one is like,
Say the name of it one more time.
so chase tree berry, or
Chase.
sometimes it'll be the name Vitex, like
Vitex. Okay.
Vitex. Herbs and nutrition and
Yeah.
breathing and nature and all, like there's so many different things in that go into health. But hopefully you guys, I don't know, pick something good out from today. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you for that. It's nice just to, a few easy things to get started for anyone
Yeah.
who doesn't quite understand much of
Right.
any of this, or is a beginner, right?
Right. Yeah.
So want to make this I try to make things a little bit easy at the beginning so that people feel like, okay, I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
do this, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be super
Yes.
complicated.
Yeah.
And so thank you for that. That's fantastic.
And yeah, thank you for having me. It's always fun to chat, and yeah, it's always a good time. So
Awesome. Well, take care and congratulations on your baby. I'm so excited. And I
thank you.
will we'll have to have a follow-up maybe later
Yeah.
after,
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
a lactation specialist as well. So we'll have to
Yeah. So we
hear
should get
more.
into that once
Yeah.
once I have had real life experience with that. That would be
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
That'll be
Yeah.
awesome.